think I need another hobby, like I need a hole in the head, but
Right.
I would love now to experiment with reloading and coming up with
Yeah.
my own shot and comparing it. But that's, like you said, we can hit record on that podcast another day.
Yeah.
So we shot the bird now. We found the bird, we shot the bird. The recovery of the bird. This is something that's really interesting, especially when you go into different areas with different types of upland hunters and whatnot. There's people people put different emphasis on different things on dog work in general, but especially on retrieving, right?
Yeah.
So you shot a bird. I think a lot of people out there, and there's something to be said about the conservation of game, finding the game that that being a priority for dog owners. I know it's a priority of mine. We've talked about this offline. Where are you at on the recovery of the shot bird when it comes to dog work?
Yeah. My neither of my setters are what you would call natural retrievers. Rose has more natural retrieve than Hartley, but both of my dogs are the one thing that we work on is hunt dead, finding birds, finding crippled birds, and this was again something I learned with dogs, just like following up shots, birds that you did not think you hit,
Yeah,
and going in that direction and finding a bird. And when it comes to like the development of that, like I don't do anything other than in those early stages. With Hartley, obviously I would have really had no clue. So I kind of learned this as he progressed and developed. With Rose, it was a little different because I had seen more, but just shoot a bird, get it down, and kind of walk to where you think it is. Like, okay, so I drop a bird, I can see it, it's dead, it's right there, right? You go over there and dead bird, dead bird, dead bird, kind of that thing, and just that repetition. And both of my dogs, they will come in, and when I say that, they immediately tighten up and they start looking in that area. And ideally, most of the times, I kill a bird. I hit it with that 3/4 ounce payload of 8.5, and the bird does run into a brick wall in the sky and falls down. Both my dogs will run over there and they'll be on the bird like before I even have time to even say dead bird. If that doesn't happen, if the bird is winged or crippled or whatever, we're going in that direction, and I'm basically saying hunt dead. And just it's almost like amazing to me, like just by sheer repetition of saying dead bird when I think I've got a dead bird down, how my dogs have learned to tighten up and search here where I think it
yeah.
is. And I mean, there's like certain tracks come to mind. I can think of like Hartley and Rose, like finding certain birds that I can't believe we found, but by pursuing them, it's
Yeah.
it's it's that hunt dead ability. And I would I like my dogs to bring my birds right back to hand? Yes, I see that, and it's just like it's a beautiful thing to have a dog run out, grab a bird, bring it back to me. I just have not put the work in the off season to make that happen. Rose like will reliably, she'll go over, pick up a bird, and she prances around, but like she has like a bubble, like she doesn't want she doesn't want me in that bubble. So like now I kind of will just stand there and let her prance around with the bird a little bit, and I'll walk over there and eventually get it. But there's so many different ways that can play out. Like if the bird falls down where you can see it,
Yeah.
that's a different situation than taking a shot at a bird and having, say, zero evidence of hit or miss.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that always, I, it you get nervous because to me, there's like no worse feeling in the world than dropping a leg on a bird or something like that and knowing that you hit it and not recovering it, which does happen. And I hate it so much, but I make the effort to try to find those birds, and it's unfortunately it happens where sometimes they do get away, and that pretty much sticks with me the rest.
It's part of it.
Right. Right.
I mean, you're gonna take the risk. You're not, and I mean, I'm sorry. The person listening to this said my dog's never
Never
lost a
lost a
bird. You're
bird.
lying.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you truly believe that, you're forgetting something.
I just don't think there's any way that you can know that 100%.
You can't know that. I
Yeah.
mean, you've seen my dogs. Like my dogs, they retrieve and very well. I would say, when relatively speaking to other people's dogs, and
Yeah.
I know for a fact my dogs have lost birds,
Yeah.
especially if you cripple them and, there's no telling where those birds go.
Yeah.
My dogs have recovered vastly more birds than I, well, to your point, thought I even hit.
Yeah.
It's, I'll shoot and I'm like, dang, I was behind it. I missed it. And, then here comes Rachel or Lucy. Here you go, Dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
But to your point, there's no worse feeling than like, oh, I stoned that bird. Where the heck is it?
Yeah.
I'm curious, it's to your point, your dogs hunt dead, you recover vastly more. I give you credit to where I think you might be one of the best markers I've seen of a down bird that I've been, but I think you've credited that to your time spent without a dog. It was kind of a
Yeah.
necessity, to where it's like I've been in the woods with you now multiple times where a bird goes down and like you're vastly more accurate with the general vicinity of the area than me.
Yeah.
But with all that being said, do you think on the next dog, do you think retrieving is going to be more of a priority for you? Do you ever see yourself giving it more of an honest, like, all right, we're gonna put this skill set on you, or do you just kind of, hey, I need you to go find the bird and I'll take it from here kind of
Yeah.
mentality?
I mean, I guess I think I think I should probably talk to some more people as far as like what else could I be doing to coax that out of them? Because like I've proven to myself that like I guess I don't really have the discipline to like sit and do force fetch with my dog. Like
Right.
that's just like something that I have not done. It's not just that I would never do it, but to this point I haven't done it, and I think it's kind of like going back to that pellet count thing. Like there's just there's a tipping point to where like okay, I got a problem here. Like I'm hitting these birds and we are not coming like that is not a a a thing that is happening with enough frequency where I feel like there's clearly a fault of me or the dogs here that needs to be addressed. I feel like when it happens, it is this is like it's kind of subjective, right? But I
Right.
feel like when it does happen to us, there's really it was a bad gun mount, whatever it was, dropped a leg on the bird and he sailed over the ridge and we went over there and it's like happens with sharp tails from time to time, and we just didn't find that bird, and like it went over the ridge. I don't know where it is, and like we were going in the direction, and at some point, I mean, I've got some examples of like birds that we found miraculously. There were two last season that remember they were both with Rose. Rose was on point, walking on a trail. Rose goes on point. This grouse gets up in front of me and I shoot. I've never seen more feathers come off of a grouse and seen it keep flying than this
You
particular
just shot
bird.
the tail fan off of it.
And the sun was coming down. It was like, poof, like, and the bird kept flying. And my heart immediately just sinks because it wasn't coming down. It kept flying. And I went up there and I'm just kind of in disbelief. And we go into our hunt dead and we're looking around and I'm walking back and forth and I'm gritting the area and I'm looking and there's feathers on. We don't see anything. Like I don't know how long we looked, but eventually we start walking and we're kind of going in the direction of the bird because that's the way I wanted to go. And it's like, well, we're gonna go this way and hopefully we can find this bird. But it's like I had broken out of the bubble where it was like Rose hunt dead, Rose hunt close, hunt dead, that kind of thing. But we're back hunting. I bet we went. It wasn't a crazy distance, but I bet we went 150 yards and turned into this. There was actually a private land boundary, so I actually had to turn. And so this is just like kind of a crazy coincidence. I have to turn. I go like another 50 yards. We're probably, I think I measured it on Onyx. We were at least 150 yards from where I shot the bird. We start walking down this corridor, and Rose locks up on point. And I was still close enough where I was like, okay, maybe something. But I was ready, thinking like this bird might have enough life left in it. Walked up and she's pointing 2 feet away from a grouse that's basically the life is just leaving it.
Done. Yeah.
And found it. That's one. That's not crazy wild, but I feel like we were lucky to find that bird, but we kind of did our process. Like there's a process that we have following up in that direction, and maybe you find the bird, maybe you don't. In this case, we did, and there's no better feeling in the world than
Right.
finding that bird that I know I hit. We found that. An- Another time earlier last season, this one can't even make it up. Rose is on point. We were into birds. I think I had killed one already. She goes on. She's kind of like going from grouse point to grouse point. She goes on point. I circle around, and I've got the perfect situation. Rose is on point. I'm looking dead at her, and this grouse is in between us. It flushes. It's flying right kind of 45-degree over me like this. I shouldn't have shot. I should have turned and shot going away, but I shot right here and I hit the back of it. Like dropped, I don't know if I dropped a leg, but I know I hit the bird and it kept going hard that way. We turn around and again, this is not a good situation because I know that bird's not hit well enough to come down. We start walking and we start looking and we looked for a good long while. It went down into a pretty thick sprucey conifer swamp. We're looking down there, and I went 100, 150 yards, kind of keeping Rose close in that corridor. And it's just like there's so many things going through your head, like, yeah, this is a straight line, but there's nothing that says the bird had to say on this straight
Right.
line, right? Like the
Yeah.
bird could just be 50 yards over there dead, and I'm just going this way. There's only so much you can do in those situations. So we go that way. She looks and looks, and she got birdie a couple times, I think. Don't find the bird. And I keep moving. And this time it was a much greater distance that I walked. And like I've already have to accept the fact that I'm not finding this bird. Like we didn't find it. I took a stupid shot and I didn't kill the bird. So we're walking, and this is really. I'm walking and Rose is off. She's off hunting again. Like this bird is gone, and I'm walking and I kick a hazelbrush whip that shoots out and comes right back and catches me right between the legs. One of the worst ones that I've ever had. It happens from time to time.
We've all been there.
This is one of the worst ones I've ever had. I dropped to my knees. I was not feeling good. And I remember like I was kind of having fun with myself. I was in pain, but I was like, I deserve this.
I deserve
Like,
it. Yeah.
I just
Karma.
wounded a girl. Like I absolutely deserve this. I like kind of regain my composure and like get up and start walking. At this point I have no sense of direction. I don't know that I'm still on the line of the bird. I don't know anything. I'm walking and I'm just going along through this heavy pine swamps. All of a sudden Rose goes on point 100 yards to my right, immediately to my right, and I was going this way. She goes on point to my right. So what do? I turn to go to my dog on point. I walk 20, 30 yards and I walk right up to a dead grouse laying in the ground, which I found for not because of my dog I found for no other reason than just dumb luck. And I found that bird. So what does that have to do with dogs hunting dead
Yeah.
that's just the kind of weird stuff that happens in the grouse woods sometimes. And again, it made my day, like just turned my day upside down, right? Like I was not in a good state of mind, recovered the bird, and all was right with the world in some sense. But
I think anybody that's been doing this upland hunting thing has similar situations. I mean, even with me, with my emphasis on the dog training and the skill set of retrieving in general, I have those stories as well. I mean, the first one you're talking about, just she going and pointing over there and you going to find it. Rachel did the same thing to me in Idaho last year, chucker hunting. Covey Rise gets up. I shoot the bird. I think it goes straight ahead, and I keep sending her. And the first two times, like I send her, and she goes and does her thing, and then comes back. That's not like her. Resend her, and she goes out for a shorter amount of time, comes back to me, and I'm like, "What the? Where's the bird? Like
yeah,
you don't not bring me the bird. This is you. Go get me my bird. And I start sending her, and she keeps wanting to veer off left. She's wanting to go left, wanting to go left, and it's so funny. Like I kick myself now because I'm always preaching on the podcast. Trust the dog.
Yep.
Trust the dog. And in this instance, I've got blinders on, and I'm like, no, I in my head, and I'm getting more stubborn, like convincing myself that that bird dropped where I thought it went.
Yep.
And so, me being the idiot that I am, it's just like she's not wanting to go. I'm like, I'm gonna go prove to my dog this bird's down there. And I go down there. I'm like, I can't find the bird. I release her 150 yards to my left. She goes on point for a split second, and what gets up but a crippled chucker. It can't fly, but it's hopping around, and I'm just sitting here like, you moron. Like this is why, again, everything I preach to everybody, I'm just as guilty as
Yep.
everybody else. But that retrieving thing, it's yeah, to your point, it's just like sometimes my buddy Jacob, he was telling the story last year. He shot his first grouse with his draught Tig, and he was disappointed because he couldn't find the bird. And it like hit Tig's a retriever again, very
Yeah.
similar, very well trained. And they finally give up, and he takes a break and sits down under a conifer tree, and he's just sitting there like, "Damn, I finally shot my first grouse, and I can't find it." What falls out of the tree in his lap but the grouse, right?
Yeah.
Stuff like that you can't make up, like you said. It's just like the strange things that happen out there in the world of upland hunting.